James Reed adjusted his tie for the third time as the transport shuttle descended toward the massive orbital platform. Earth's first official meeting with the Galactic Council was about to begin, and he carried the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. Beside him, a sturdy metal carrier rattled slightly. Inside, Brutus scratched at the ventilation holes with typical impatience. "You need to behave today," James whispered to the carrier. A low grunt was the only response. He should have left the honey badger on Earth, but his therapist had been clear. After the Mars colony incident, James needed his emotional support animal present during high-stress situations. The council had approved the request without asking what kind of animal it was. The shuttle doors opened with a hiss. 3 towering aliens waited in the docking bay. The nearest one had scales like polished obsidian and stood at least 9 feet tall. Its yellow eyes narrowed as it spotted James. "Human diplomat," the creature rumbled. "I am Scar of the Draken Imperium. Your species arrives late to the galactic stage." James extended his hand, remembering his briefing about human gestures. "James Reed. Earth is honored to be considered for council membership." Scar ignored the offered hand. "We shall see if your kind possesses the strength to stand among true civilizations." The alien turned and began walking toward the massive archway leading deeper into the station. "Follow." The corridor stretched for what felt like miles. Every surface gleamed with technology James could barely comprehend. Other aliens passed by, each one stranger than the last. Some floated. Others skittered on multiple legs. A few appeared to be made of crystalline structures that chimed softly as they moved. Brutus growled from inside the carrier. "Not now," James muttered. They entered a vast chamber where dozens of aliens sat in tiered seating arranged in a circle. At the center stood a podium crafted from what looked like living coral. An insectoid being with compound eyes and 4 arms gestured toward James from the highest seat. "Human representative," the being clicked and chittered. A device on its thorax translated the sounds into something James could understand. "I am High Chancellor Voren. You stand before the assembled species of the Galactic Council. Present your case for membership." James set the carrier down beside the podium and pulled out his datapad. "Thank you, Chancellor. Earth brings unique perspectives and resources to the Council. Our species has overcome tremendous challenges to reach the stars. We believe in cooperation, peace, and mutual benefit among all civilizations." Scar's laughter echoed through the chamber. Soft words from a soft species. "You have no great warriors. Your ships are primitive. Your worlds are few. What could you possibly offer us?" "Wisdom," James replied calmly. "Adaptability. A proven track record of resolving conflicts through diplomacy." "Weakness," Scar spat. Several other council members shifted in their seats. "The galaxy has no place for species that cannot defend themselves." The carrier rattled violently. James glanced down with growing concern. Brutus didn't like loud noises or aggressive posturing. "If I could just continue my presentation." "There is nothing to present," Scar interrupted. "Look at you, small, fragile. You even require artificial supports for your weak body." The Draken gestured at James's tie. "Decorative fabric to hide your vulnerability." The carrier's latch clicked open. James dove for it, but he was too slow. Brutus emerged like a furry missile, his black and white coat bristling with aggression. The honey badger's small eyes locked onto the refreshment table set up along the chamber's eastern wall. Without hesitation, he charged. "Brutus, no!" James shouted. The honey badger reached the table and began destroying everything in reach. Crystal decanters shattered. Exotic fruits from a dozen worlds flew through the air. Brutus climbed onto the table and thrust his face into a bowl of what looked like glowing pudding. High Chancellor Voren rose from his seat. "What is the meaning of this? Remove that creature immediately." "I'm trying," James said, running toward the table. Brutus saw him coming and grabbed an entire platter of something that smelled like rotting fish. The honey badger dropped to the floor and scurried away with his prize. A door at the far end of the chamber burst open. 12 soldiers in heavy armor rushed in, weapons drawn. They were Kryn warriors, James recognized from his briefing, considered the finest security force in known space. Each stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and legs built like tree trunks. "Secure the creature," their captain barked. The soldiers formed a perimeter around Brutus, who had stopped to devour the fish platter. Energy nets deployed from their weapons. The first net sailed through the air and landed perfectly over the honey badger. Brutus looked up, fish juice dripping from his snout. He grabbed the energy net with his teeth and tore it. Apart, the soldiers stared, full. Containment protocol, the captain ordered. What followed would be analyzed and studied by military strategists for years to come. Brutus moved with absolute fearlessness, treating the armored warriors as minor obstacles between him and more food. When they tried to grab him, he bit through their gloves. When they surrounded him, he went low and attacked their knees. When they deployed stun weapons, he shrugged off the electricity and bit the weapons themselves. One soldier made the mistake of trying to pin Brutus with his full weight. The honey badger twisted in a way that defied anatomy and latched onto the soldier's faceplate, clawing at the protective visor until cracks appeared. 3 minutes after the engagement began, all 12 Kryn soldiers lay groaning on the floor. Some clutched bitten hands, others held damaged armor. Their captain's helmet had been completely removed and thrown across the chamber. Brutus sat in the middle of the carnage, eating a blue fruit he'd retrieved from the wreckage of the refreshment table. The council chamber had gone completely silent. James approached slowly, hands outstretched. "Brutus, come here, boy." The honey badger looked at him, seemed to consider the request, then grabbed 3 more fruits and ran. He squeezed through a ventilation grate near the floor and disappeared. High Chancellor Vorin's voice trembled slightly. What was that creature?" "A honey badger," James said weakly. "From Earth. They're persistent." Scar had retreated to the back of his seating area. "That is a bioweapon. You brought a bioweapon to the council. He's an emotional support animal. Your species keep such beasts as companions?" Another council member, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish, pulsed with alarmed colors. What kind of death world produced that monster? "Brutus isn't a monster. He's just a little aggressive when he's hungry." High Chancellor Vorin pointed one of his 4 arms at James. "You will retrieve your creature immediately and remove it from this station. The council cannot deliberate with such danger present." "Of course, Chancellor. I just need to—" An alarm blared throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed along every wall. A holographic display appeared above the central podium, showing a schematic of the station's ventilation system. A small heat signature moved rapidly through the ducts, heading deeper into the facility. "Lock down all sections," Vorin commanded. "No one enters or leaves this station until the creature is contained." James pulled out his communicator. "This is really bad timing, but I should mention something about honey badgers." "What?" Scar demanded. "They can fit through any space their head can fit through, and they're excellent climbers, and they have no natural predators because nothing wants to deal with them, and they've been known to fight off lions, hyenas, and leopards without backing down." The council stared at him. "Also," James added quietly, "they can survive cobra venom and bee stings that would kill most creatures. They're kind of hard to stop once they've decided to do something." High Chancellor Vorin's compound eyes seemed to lose focus. "You're telling us that Earth, a world-seeking council membership, naturally produces creatures of this caliber?" "Well, yes. But Brutus is actually pretty small compared to—" Out. Vorin's translator barely kept up with the volume. "Take your vessel and remove yourself from this station. Humanity's application is hereby suspended pending a full investigation of your world's biosphere." James gathered his datapad and the empty carrier. Around him, medical teams rushed in to treat the wounded Kryn soldiers. Scar watched from a distance, his predatory confidence replaced with something that looked almost like respect. As James walked back toward the docking bay, another alarm sounded. The holographic display updated. Brutus had reached the exotic animal reserve on the station's lower levels, and somehow opened the containment field holding a void serpent, a creature considered one of the galaxy's most dangerous organisms. Security footage showed the serpent fleeing in terror as Brutus chased it, apparently angry that it wasn't edible. James Reed, Earth's first diplomat to the stars, wondered if humanity would ever be invited back. The emergency lockdown transformed the orbital station into a fortress. Blast doors sealed every major section. Armed patrols roamed the corridors. High Chancellor Vorin had declared the honey badger a Class 7 threat, the highest rating possible for a biological entity. Across the council chamber, representatives from 47 different species argued about what to do next. James sat in a holding room under guard, watching the chaos unfold through a security monitor. His communicator had been confiscated. His transport shuttle had been locked down. 2 Kryn soldiers stood at the door, eyeing him like he might transform into something equally dangerous. "I could help find him," James offered for the 10th time. The guard said nothing, On the monitor, another report came through. Brutus had been spotted in the exotic animal reserve, which housed the galaxy's most fearsome creatures. The reserve existed as proof of the Council's power over nature itself. Beings from across known space could visit and observe predators safely contained behind energy fields. The Void Serpent had been the crown jewel of the collection. 20 feet long with scales that absorbed light itself, the serpent could survive in the vacuum of space and possessed venom that dissolved molecular bonds. It had been captured after a 3-year military campaign. Security footage showed Brutus approaching the serpent's containment field. The honey badger sniffed at the energy barrier, scratched it experimentally, then bit the control panel mounted on the nearby wall. Sparks flew. The barrier flickered and died. The void serpent emerged from its enclosure with a hiss that made the audio equipment crackle. It reared up, displaying fangs the length of daggers. Brutus looked up at the creature, made a huffing sound that might have been annoyance, and charged. What followed made no sense by any conventional understanding of predator behavior. The serpent tried to strike. Brutus dodged and bit its tail. The serpent coiled, attempting to constrict. Brutus wriggled free and went for the head. Venom splashed across the honey badger's fur. Brutus shook himself and kept attacking. The void serpent, apex predator of 3 star systems, broke off the engagement and fled into the ventilation system. Brutus chased it for approximately 30 seconds before getting distracted by a food dispenser, meant for the reserve's herbivores. In the council chamber, someone fainted. High Chancellor Varin called an emergency session. We must consider the possibility that this creature is not merely an animal. It may be a weapon designed to look harmless. The human claimed it was for emotional support, a council member noted. The being resembled a collection of floating crystals that chimed when it spoke. What kind of species requires such dangerous support? James's guard received a communication. One of them looked at James with what might have been fear. You're being summoned to the council chamber. They escorted him through corridors now filled with barricades and weapons emplacements. Scientists had set up monitoring stations at every major intersection, tracking Brutus's heat signature as it moved through the station's infrastructure. The honey badger seemed to be following food sources with single-minded determination. James entered the chamber to find every council member staring at him. Explain your world, High Chancellor Vorin said without preamble. The creature you brought here, this honey badger. What is its place in Earth's ecosystem? James cleared his throat. Brutus is a honey badger. They're native to Africa and parts of Asia. They're omnivores, very adaptable and yes, quite aggressive when threatened or hungry. Its combat capabilities are extraordinary, Scar said from his seat. The Draken warrior had bandaged one of his arms. I have studied warfare for 3 centuries. I have never seen such relentless ferocity in a creature that size. They're known for that, James admitted. Honey badgers have very thick skin and high pain tolerance. They're resistant to most venoms. They're also incredibly stubborn. A jellyfish-like being pulsed nervous colors. You said it is an omnivore. Does this mean it is not even a true predator? Well, no. Honey badgers eat plants, insects, small animals, whatever they can find. They're opportunistic. The chamber erupted in confused chittering and clicking. A council member who resembled a mobile plant spoke through its translator. If this is not a specialized predator, then what are Earth's actual apex species? James hesitated. That depends on the ecosystem. We have polar bears in the Arctic, great white sharks in the oceans, saltwater crocodiles in tropical regions, lions and leopards in Africa. Stop. Vorin held up one of his 4 arms. You are describing multiple apex predators in a single world? Earth has diverse biomes. Each one has different dominant species. Scar leaned forward. How does your species survive among such creatures? We're intelligent. We use tools. We build shelters. Humans are actually pretty good at adapting to different environments. The honey badger defeated 12 Kryn warriors, the jellyfish being said. Where does it rank among Earth's dangerous fauna? James did some quick mental calculations. Maybe middle tier? They're tough, but they're not the biggest or strongest. A lion would kill a honey badger in a straight fight. So would a leopard, probably. And they're nowhere near the size of elephants or hippos or... What is a hippo? Vorin interrupted. Hippopotamus. Large herbivore, semi-aquatic, extremely territorial. They kill more people in Africa than lions do. Dead silence filled the chamber. Your herbivores, Scar said slowly, are more dangerous than your predators? Some of them. Hippos are aggressive. Cape buffalo are mean. Elephants are usually peaceful, but they're huge and smart, and they have excellent memories. You don't want to make an elephant angry. A new alarm blared. The holographic display updated. Brutus had reached the station's central armory. Security teams converged on the location, moving with obvious reluctance. 3 hunter teams will be deployed, Vorin announced. The NASC trackers, the Vren Pack, and the Shadow Collective. Each represents the finest hunting traditions of their respective species. They will capture this creature using non-lethal methods. I really think I should, James began. You will remain here under guard, Vorin said firmly. Your role in this incident will be investigated once the creature is secured. The 3 hunter teams assembled in the main concourse, each group confident in their superior skills. The NASC trackers used pheromone trails and thermal imaging. The Vren Pack employed pack tactics refined over millennia. The Shadow Collective relied on stealth technology that rendered them nearly invisible. They entered the armory section simultaneously from different access points, coordinating through encrypted communications. Brutus had torn through a locked munitions crate, not because he wanted the weapons inside, but because food supplies had been stored in the maintenance room directly behind it. The honey badger sat among scattered ammunition, eating freeze-dried rations meant for emergency situations. The NASC trackers deployed first, releasing a sedative gas into the area. Brutus sneezed, shook his head, and continued eating. The gas had no apparent effect. The Vren Pack tried encirclement, moving in coordinated patterns designed to confuse and overwhelm prey. Brutus noticed them and charged the nearest pack member. The Vren, a wolf-like creature with 6 legs, attempted to dodge. Brutus latched onto its tail and refused to let go. The entire pack retreated when their companions started howling in pain. The Shadow Collective activated their stealth fields and approached with tranquilizer weapons. Brutus couldn't see them, but he seemed to sense their presence. When the first tranquilizer dart flew, he dodged it somehow and went straight for the shooter's position. The operative's stealth field flickered as Brutus collided with him. Claws tore through advanced technology. The operative fled, visible now, shouting something about devils and demons. Within 20 minutes, all 3 hunter teams had withdrawn to safe positions and refused to continue the operation. Their team leaders reported to the council with expressions that ranged from shocked to traumatized. It does not behave like any creature we have encountered, the NASC leader reported. It shows no fear, no survival instinct. It attacks threats larger than itself without hesitation. Our pack tactics were useless, the Vren Alpha admitted. The creature fights with pure aggression. There is no strategy to exploit. The Shadow Collective's commander simply said, "We recommend orbital bombardment of that section." High Chancellor Vorin turned his compound eyes toward James. "Your creature has defeated our finest hunters. Honey badgers are persistent," James said quietly. Scar stood from his seat, his scales gleaming in the chamber's light. "I will retrieve the creature myself. No beast, regardless of its ferocity, can stand against a Dracon warrior in single combat." "Is that wise?" Vorin asked. "The human's animal has embarrassed this council long enough. I will restore our honor and prove that the Dracon remain the galaxy's supreme warriors." Scar's yellow eyes fixed on James. "Watch and learn what true strength looks like. Human." The Draken left the chamber to prepare for his hunt. James wanted to warn him, to explain that Brutus didn't understand concepts like honor or surrender, but the guards kept him silent. Security feeds tracked Scar's progress through the station. The warrior had armed himself with traditional Dracon weapons, energy claws that could slice through steel, armor plating that had withstood plasma fire, and centuries of combat experience. He found Brutus in the power core section, where the honey badger had discovered a maintenance worker's lunchbox. Brutus looked up as Scar approached, a sandwich hanging from his mouth. "Small creature," Scar growled. "You have caused enough chaos. Submit now and I will ensure you are treated mercifully." Brutus swallowed the sandwich and made a low growling sound. Scar activated his energy claws and stepped forward. The security feed showed his confident approach, his perfect warrior stance, his complete certainty of victory. Then the feed cut to static. 3 hours passed before Scar emerged from the power core section. His armor hung in shreds. Deep scratches covered his scales. One of his energy claws had been broken completely. He limped through the corridors without speaking, ignoring questions from security teams. When he reached the docking bay, Scar called for immediate transport back to his homeworld. He refused medical treatment at the station. He refused to make any statement about what had happened. As his ship departed, Brutus appeared in the council chamber through a ventilation grate high on the wall. The honey badger climbed down using a decorative banner, reached High Chancellor Voron's podium and curled up on the warm surface. Within seconds, he was asleep. No one moved. 47 different species sat frozen, watching the small animals sleep peacefully in their most sacred space. James's guards had gone pale, their weapons lowered, unwilling to approach. Brutus snored on the podium, a small sound that somehow echoed through the absolutely silent council chamber. High Chancellor Voron remained motionless in his seat, his forearms held perfectly still. 46 other species representatives barely breathed. The small black and white creature had effectively taken control of the galaxy's most powerful governing body, simply by falling asleep. James stood between his guards, equally frozen. He knew Brutus well enough to understand what would happen if anyone tried to move the honey badger before he was ready to wake up. The scratches on Scar's armor told that story clearly enough. Perhaps, the jellyfish-like council member whispered, we should adjourn until the creature awakens naturally. We will not flee our own chamber, Voron said, though his voice lacked its usual authority. Someone must remove it. Every eye turned to James. I can try, he said carefully. But honey badgers are grumpy when you wake them up. He might bite. Might? A crystalline being chimed nervously. Probably will bite, James corrected. But he knows me, so it shouldn't be too bad. The guard stepped aside with obvious relief. James walked slowly toward the podium, watching Brutus for any sign of waking. The honey badger's chest rose and fell steadily. A bit of sandwich crust was still stuck to his whiskers. Hey, Brutus, James said softly. Time to go home, buddy. One of Brutus's eyes cracked open. He stared at James with the kind of annoyance only a disturbed sleeper could muster. A low growl rumbled from his chest. I know. You were comfortable, but we need to leave now. James reached for the carrier he'd brought with him. The metal door hung open, its latch broken from Brutus's earlier escape. That wouldn't work. He'd have to carry the honey badger directly. Come on, James coaxed, extending his gloved hands. Brutus yawned, showing impressive teeth. Then he stood, stretched, and waddled toward James. The honey badger allowed himself to be picked up, though he made his displeasure clear by biting James's glove hard enough to leave tooth marks in the reinforced material. Good boy, James said through gritted teeth. He tucked Brutus under one arm and turned toward the exit. We'll just be going now. Wait, High Chancellor Voron's voice stopped him. Before you leave this station, the council requires answers. James turned carefully, keeping Brutus secure. The honey badger had started to doze again, apparently satisfied with his protest bite. What do you want to know? Voron gestured to the chamber's display screens. With a few commands, he brought up security footage from the past 6 hours. The montage showed Brutus defeating Kryn soldiers, terrorizing the Void Serpent, humiliating 3 hunter teams, and whatever he'd done to Scar in the power core section. This creature, Voron said slowly. You claimed it is for emotional support. Yes, you keep it as a companion. A pet, service animal, technically, but yes. The council members looked at each other with expressions James was learning to read as shock and confusion. A being that resembled a mobile plant spoke up. On your world, creatures of this capability are domesticated? Well, Brutus isn't really domesticated. Honey badgers don't domesticate well. But I raised him from when he was a cub and we have an understanding. An understanding, Voron repeated, with an animal that defeated our best warriors. He's not that bad once you know how to handle him. You just have to respect his space, keep him fed, and never try to take something away from him once he's decided it's his. Several council members began speaking at once. Voron raised his arms for silence. The council has been researching your planet's biosphere. While this incident unfolded, we have discovered disturbing information. A holographic display appeared above the podium, showing various Earth animals, lions, tigers, bears, elephants, hippos, crocodiles, great white sharks. The images cycled through dozens of species, each one larger and more formidable than the last. According to our analysis, Voron continued, the honey badger is not even close to being Earth's apex predator. No, James agreed. I mentioned that earlier. You mentioned it briefly. You did not explain the full scope of your planet's ecosystem. Voron's compound eyes fixed on James. "We have now reviewed comprehensive data. Your world contains hundreds of species that could pose significant threats to galactic citizens. Earth is pretty biodiverse," James said. A reptilian council member who hadn't spoken before leaned forward. "Your oceans contain creatures over 30 meters long. Your land hosts animals that weigh several tons. Your skies have predatory birds with wingspans exceeding 3 meters. This is normal for your species?" "We're used to it." "Used to it," the being repeated. "You are used to living on a death world." "Death world seems harsh. Earth is just competitive. Lots of different species evolve to fill different niches. Sometimes they compete. Sometimes they cooperate. Humans learn to navigate all of it." The crystalline being chimed in agitation. "Our preliminary analysis suggests quarantining your entire solar system. The risk of accidentally introducing Earth species to other ecosystems is too high." "That seems extreme," James protested. "Is it?" Voron pulled up more images. "Your planet has insects that can kill with single stings, plants that digest animals, microorganisms that cause devastating diseases. And according to your own historical records, your species has domesticated or hunted many of these dangerous organisms. Humans are adaptable." "Adaptable," Voron said the word like he was testing its meaning. "You have turned apex predators into companions. You have hunted creatures that could easily kill you. You have survived in every climate on your world, from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. That's what intelligence does. We use tools, build shelters, work together. It's not that impressive." "Not impressive?" The jellyfish being pulsed red. "You carried a honey badger onto this station in a metal box. You handled it with your bare hands. You showed no fear whatsoever. He's my emotional support animal. Of course I'm not afraid of him." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species argued for immediate rejection of Earth's application. Others suggested strict quarantine protocols. A few proposed studying humanity more carefully before making any decisions. Brutus woke up and growled at the noise. "Silence," Voron commanded. The chamber quieted instantly. "James Reed of Earth, the council must deliberate on this matter. You will be confined to guest quarters while we reach a decision. Your creature will remain with you as no one else is willing to handle it." "Fair enough," James said. The guards escorted him to a small suite on the station's residential level. The room had a bed, a refreshment station, and a communication terminal with limited access. James set Brutus down and checked the terminal for messages. 36 requests for interviews awaited him. News networks across the galaxy wanted to know about the human who'd brought chaos to the council. Scientists wanted biological samples from Brutus. Military strategists wanted to study honey badger combat patterns. One message came from Scar. It was brief. "The creature fights with honor, even if it knows nothing of the concept. I have requested my government support Earth's application. A species that can coexist with such beasts deserves respect." James read the message twice, surprised. Brutus had somehow earned a Dracon warrior's respect through sheer stubbornness and fearlessness. More messages came in over the next few hours. Reports from Earth. His supervisor wanted a full account of what had happened. The media back home had gotten wind of the incident. Humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council was making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Then the research reports started arriving. Council scientists had sent probes to Earth orbit, scanning the planet's surface and cataloging its species. The reports grew increasingly alarmed. One scientist noted that humans regularly swam in waters containing sharks and jellyfish. Another documented that humans kept wolves as pets after thousands of years of selective breeding. A third reported that humans rode animals 10 times their size for sport and transportation. The most disturbing report came from a cultural analyst who'd reviewed human entertainment media. "They create fictional scenarios," the report stated, "where they fight and defeat creatures even more dangerous than those on their own world. They call it science fiction and consider it entertainment. The psychological implications are concerning." James couldn't help but laugh. Humans did love their monster movies. A chime at the door interrupted his reading. A small robot rolled in carrying food. Real food, not the nutrient paste the station usually served. Someone had actually prepared a meal suitable for human consumption. Brutus immediately investigated the tray, sniffing at everything. James managed to save most of it, though the honey badger claimed a piece of meat for himself. "We're either about to be welcomed with honor or ejected into space," James told Brutus. "I'm not sure which." The honey badger didn't care. He'd found a comfortable spot on the bed and was settling in for another nap. 3 days passed. James remained confined to quarters while the council debated. He could see the news feeds, though. The entire galaxy was discussing Earth now. Some species expressed fear. Others showed fascination. A few declared they wanted nothing to do with humans. Then High Chancellor Voran's face appeared on the communication terminal. James Reed, the council has reached a preliminary decision. You are summoned to the chamber immediately. The guards arrived moments later. They kept their distance from Brutus, who'd grown comfortable in his temporary home and wasn't happy about leaving. James had to bribe him with food to get him moving. The council chamber looked different. Additional security barriers had been installed. Medical teams stood ready at every entrance. It looked more like a military operation than a diplomatic meeting. James carried Brutus in, having given up on the broken carrier entirely. The honey badger surveyed the assembled aliens with sleepy indifference. James Reed of Earth, Voran began. The council has reviewed extensive data on your planet. We have analyzed your species' history, your ecosystem, and your cultural development. We have reached several conclusions. James held his breath. First, Earth will not be quarantined. Such action would be both impractical and disrespectful to a clearly intelligent species. Relief flooded through James. Second, strict protocols will be established regarding transport of Earth organisms. No species may be removed from your planet without council approval and extensive safety review. That's reasonable, James agreed. Third, humanity's application for council membership is being fast-tracked for approval. James blinked. Wait, what? Any species capable of coexisting with creatures like the honey badger clearly possesses remarkable adaptive capabilities. The council believes Earth would bring valuable perspectives to our deliberations. However, there will be conditions. Of course. Your emotional support animal will be permitted to remain on this station as a diplomatic courtesy. Appropriate facilities will be constructed for its care. You will be responsible for its behavior. Brutus yawned. 2 weeks after the incident, James stood before the assembled Galactic Council once more. This time he came prepared with a proper presentation. The council had demanded a comprehensive overview of Earth's biosphere before finalizing humanity's membership. Brutus sat in a specially constructed enclosure near the podium, watching the proceedings while chewing on a reinforced toy. The enclosure had cost more than a small spacecraft. Engineers from 6 different species had worked together to create something that could contain a honey badger. It featured triple reinforced walls, a complex locking mechanism, and enough space for Brutus to move around comfortably. The honey badger had tested it thoroughly in the first hour and seemed grudgingly satisfied. Members of the council, James began, pulling up his first holographic display. Thank you for this opportunity to share information about Earth's ecosystem. I want to start by addressing the primary concern that has emerged from your initial research. The hologram showed Earth rotating slowly, blue oceans and green continents visible from space. Earth is not a death world. It's a living world. Yes, it contains dangerous organisms, but it also contains immense beauty, diversity, and balance. Life there has evolved over billions of years to fill every possible niche. High Chancellor Voran leaned forward. Begin with the honey badger. Put it in context for us. James nodded and changed the display. A map of Africa and Asia appeared with highlighted regions showing honey badger territory. Honey badgers are medium-sized carnivores. They weigh between 20 and 30 pounds. They're omnivorous, meaning they eat both plants and animals. In the wild, they're solitary and territorial. Their combat capabilities? Scar asked from his seat. The Draken warrior had returned to the council, his wounds healed. Honey badgers have extremely thick skin, around 6 millimeters, which protects them from most bites and stings. They're resistant to venom from snakes and bees. They have powerful jaws and sharp claws. Most importantly, they have almost no fear response. When threatened, they fight rather than flee. James pulled up video footage from Earth. The council watched as a honey badger confronted a lion 3 times its size. The lion eventually walked away. In Earth's ecosystem, James continued, honey badgers are successful because of their aggression and durability, not because they're apex predators. They occupy a middle tier. Many animals could kill them, but most choose not to because the fight isn't worth the injury. Show us the apex predators, the crystalline being requested. The display changed to show a polar bear. The massive white creature stood on its hind legs, towering over a human researcher in the background. Polar bears, James explained, the largest land carnivores on Earth. Males can weigh over 1,500 pounds. They hunt seals on Arctic ice and can swim for days at a time. Their bite force exceeds 1,200 pounds per square inch. Nervous chittering filled the chamber. In the oceans, we have great white sharks. The hologram showed a massive fish breaching the water's surface, jaws open to reveal rows of teeth. They can grow to 20 feet long and weigh over 5,000 pounds. They detect electrical impulses from prey and can sense a single drop of blood in millions of gallons of water. And humans swim in these waters? The jellyfish being asked. Yes, shark attacks are rare. Most species aren't interested in humans as prey. We've learned to coexist. James continued through the presentation, showing saltwater crocodiles, African lions, Bengal tigers, grizzly bears, and anacondas. Each creature prompted new waves of concern from the council. Then he shifted to herbivores. African elephants, James said as the hologram displayed a herd. The largest land animals on Earth. They can weigh over 13,000 pounds. They're highly intelligent, with excellent memory and complex social structures. They've been known to recognize individual humans years after meeting them. They appear peaceful, Voren observed. Usually, but elephants kill over 500 people per year on Earth. They're protective of their families and territory. An angry elephant is one of the most dangerous things you can encounter. The display changed to show a hippopotamus yawning in a river, its mouth opening impossibly wide. Hippos, James said. Semi-aquatic herbivores. They weigh up to 4 tons. Despite eating only plants, they're extremely aggressive and territorial. They kill more people in Africa than any other large animal. Your herbivores are more dangerous than your carnivores? Scar seemed genuinely confused, some of them. Cape buffalo are also incredibly dangerous. So are cassowaries, which are large, flightless birds with claws that can disembowel a person. James let that information sink in before continuing. The point I'm making is that Earth's ecosystem is complex. Danger doesn't always come from predators. Humans have learned to read animal behavior, respect boundaries, and use intelligence to avoid conflicts. Yet you also hunt these creatures, a reptilian council member noted. We did, yes. Humans have been hunters for most of our history. We developed tools and strategies to hunt animals much larger than ourselves. Spears, bows, traps, and later firearms. But we also learned conservation. Many species that were endangered are now recovering because humans chose to protect them. The hologram changed to show humans interacting with various animals, a researcher studying gorillas, a marine biologist swimming with whales, a wildlife photographer shooting images of tigers. This is incomprehensible, the mobile plant being said. You actively seek out dangerous creatures for study? Knowledge requires proximity. We've learned more about Earth's species by observing them closely than we ever could from a distance. Yes, it's dangerous. People die doing this work, but we consider it worthwhile. James pulled up his next set of images. Now I want to discuss domestication. This is where Earth species becomes truly unique from a galactic perspective. The hologram showed a variety of domestic animals: dogs, cats, horses, cattle, chickens, and dozens of others. Over thousands of years, humans have domesticated numerous species. We started with wolves, which became dogs through selective breeding. We domesticated wild cattle for food and labor. We tamed horses for transportation. We even domesticated birds of prey for hunting. You domesticated wolves? Scar stood up from his seat. The pack predators shown in your earlier presentation? Yes, dogs are descended from wolves. We've been companions for at least 15,000 years, maybe longer. The council erupted in discussion. Voren called for order several times before the chamber quieted. How is this possible? The crystalline being demanded. Wolves are efficient predators. How did a relatively weak species like humans convince them to cooperate? We fed them, protected them, bred them selectively for traits we valued like loyalty and friendliness. Over generations, wolves became dogs. Now we have hundreds of breeds, each specialized for different purposes. Some hunt, some guard. Some just provide companionship. James showed images of various dog breeds. A tiny chihuahua next to a massive mastiff. A border collie herding sheep. A German shepherd working with police. All of these came from wolves? Voren asked. All of them. Humans are very good at selective breeding. The presentation continued. James explained how humans rode horses, used oxen to pull plows, kept cats to control pests, and raised chickens for eggs. He showed footage of falconry, where humans trained hawks and eagles to hunt. Wait, the jellyfish being interrupted. You train aerial predators to hunt for you? It's a traditional practice. The bird catches prey and returns to the handler. Both benefit. This is beyond domestication, Scar said quietly. This is partnership between species. I have never heard of anything like it. Humans are social creatures, James explained. We form bonds easily, even with other species. We recognize intelligence and personality in animals. Many humans consider their pets to be family members. He showed images of people with their pets, a child hugging a golden retriever, an elderly person holding a cat, a family riding horses together. On Earth, James continued, humans live alongside millions of other species. We build our cities around them. We create parks and reserves to protect them. We study their behavior and try to minimize our impact on their habitats. It's not perfect. We've made mistakes, but we're learning. The hologram shifted to show coral reefs, rainforests, and wildlife preserves. The Council's concern about Earth being a death world is understandable. But from our perspective, Earth is home. We've evolved alongside these species. We understand the risks and how to manage them. What about your most dangerous species? A council member asked. Surely there are creatures even humans fear. James paused. Box jellyfish. Tiny marine animals whose venom can kill a human in minutes. Mosquitoes which carry diseases that kill hundreds of thousands of people every year. Certain types of snakes. Spiders in some regions, parasites, bacteria. Bacteria? Vorin asked. Microscopic organisms. Some cause diseases. We've developed medicine to fight them. Vaccines to prevent them. It's an ongoing battle. The council members looked at each other with growing unease. Your world, the crystalline being said slowly, is hostile at every scale, from microscopic to massive. How has your species survived? Intelligence, cooperation, adaptability. We learn from our mistakes. We pass knowledge between generations. We use technology to overcome our physical limitations. James pulled up his final image, a group of humans from different cultures standing together, smiling. Humans aren't the strongest species on Earth. We're not the fastest or the most venomous or the best adapted to any particular environment. But we're versatile. We think, we plan. We work together. Those traits have allowed us to thrive. High Chancellor Vorin stood from his seat and approached the podium. Brutus watched him carefully from the enclosure but didn't growl. James Reed, this presentation has been enlightening and deeply concerning. The council must discuss what we've learned. I understand. Before we adjourn, one question. You mentioned that humans keep honey badgers as emotional support animals. Why would anyone choose such a creature for comfort? James looked at Brutus, who had curled up for a nap. Brutus doesn't judge me. He doesn't care about my failures or my fears. He's authentic. When he's happy to see me, it's real. When he's annoyed, it's honest. In a complicated galaxy, there's something comforting about that simplicity. Vorin's compound eyes studied James for a long moment. You are a strange species, human. We get that a lot. The council dismissed James but requested he remain available for follow-up questions. Over the next several days, scientists from dozens of species contacted him with inquiries. They wanted to know everything about Earth, how humans trained animals, how they avoided predators, how they decided which species to protect and which to hunt. One message stood out. It came from Scar. Human James, I have reviewed your presentation multiple times. I believe I understand now. Your species does not conquer nature. You join it. You find your place within it. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. The Dracon Imperium supports your membership in the council. James replied with thanks and went to check on Brutus. The honey badger had thoroughly destroyed the toy in his enclosure and was now trying to dig through the reinforced floor. The hierarchy operated in the shadows of galactic politics. While the council debated peaceful cooperation, the hierarchy pursued power through military strength and technological advantage. They watched the honey badger incident with interest. If Earth's supposedly harmless creatures could defeat council security, imagine what weaponized Earth organisms could accomplish. 3 ships departed from hierarchy space 6 days after James's presentation. They traveled under civilian registration, claiming to be a research expedition studying pre-industrial worlds. Their actual destination was Earth's Africa, specifically Kruger National Park. where the satellite scans showed the highest concentration of large animals. Commander Trell led the operation from the primary vessel. He was a seasoned hierarchy officer from the Vosk species, known for their cold efficiency and complete lack of empathy. His scales glowed a dull gray as he reviewed the mission parameters. "We'll collect specimens from the middle tier," he told his team. "The honey badger proved effective, so we'll avoid apex predators initially. Capture herbivores first. They should be docile and easy to transport." His second-in-command, a smaller Vosk named Penn, pulled up Earth animal data. The hippopotamus appears promising. Large, powerful, plant-eating. Perfect for military applications once we enhance its aggression. Excellent choice. Deploy Team 1 to the water sources. Team 2 will target the elephants. Team 3 handles backup and security. The ships landed after dark in a remote section of the park, far from human observation posts. Cloaking fields hid them from satellites. The teams deployed with confidence, carrying stun weapons and containment fields designed to hold creatures 10 times larger than their targets. Team 1 approached a river where thermal scans showed multiple large heat signatures. The Vosk soldiers crept through tall grass, their technology compensating for Earth's higher gravity and unusual atmosphere. Night vision revealed shapes in the water ahead. "Targets acquired," the team leader whispered into his communicator. "Multiple hippopotamus specimens visible. They appear to be sleeping." Deploying containment field. The soldiers activated their equipment. An energy net spread across the water's surface designed to paralyze anything it touched. The net settled over the nearest hippopotamus. The animal woke up instantly. Its mouth opened in a yawn that became a roar. The hippo lunged out of the water with shocking speed for something weighing 3 tons. The containment field sparked and failed. Apparently, no one had accounted for wet skin conducting electricity differently. The hippo charged. Team 1 scattered. One soldier was too slow. The hippo's jaws closed on his armor with a bite force that crumpled the advanced alloy like paper. The soldier screamed once before the animal shook him like a toy. Other hippos emerged from the water, roaring challenges. They weren't sleeping. They'd been resting. Now they were defending their territory. Team 1 retreated in chaos. Only 4 of 7 soldiers made it back to the ship. Their leader was among the casualties. "Abort the hippopotamus capture," Commander Trell ordered grimly. "Team 2, what's your status?" Team 2 had located an elephant herd in a clearing. The massive animals grazed peacefully in the moonlight, their trunks pulling grass with delicate precision. Several young elephants stayed close to their mothers. "Targets are calm," Team 2 reported. "Preparing tranquilizer deployment. These creatures are larger than anticipated but appear passive." "Proceed with caution," Trell warned. The soldiers fired tranquilizer darts loaded with enough sedative to drop a Kryn warrior. The dart struck the nearest elephant, a large female. She trumpeted in pain and anger. The tranquilizer that should have knocked her unconscious in seconds seemed to have no effect. She charged. The ground shook with each step. Team 2 activated personal shields and stood their ground, confident their technology would protect them. The elephant hit the shields like a living battering ram. Energy barriers designed to stop plasma fire crumpled under tons of angry elephant. The herd joined the attack. Adult elephants formed a protective circle around the young ones while others pursued the fleeing soldiers. One elephant caught a soldier with her trunk and threw him 30 feet. Another stomped on a personal shield generator until it exploded. Team 2 called for emergency extraction. Their transport shuttle swept in low, weapons firing to drive off the elephants. The animals retreated slightly. Then one large male charged the shuttle itself. His tusks punched through the hull. The shuttle crashed into trees, its crew scrambling to escape before the elephant could finish destroying it. Commander Trell watched the carnage through drone feeds. "All teams, fall back to primary landing site. We're aborting the operation." "Sir," Penn said hesitantly. Team 3 reports they've successfully captured several smaller specimens. Dogs, they're called. Domesticated animals. The humans keep them as pets. Trell seized on this small success. "Bring them aboard. We'll salvage what we can from this disaster." The teams converged on the landing site, dragging containment cages with confused dogs inside. The canines whined and barked but posed no threat. Finally, something from Earth that behaved reasonably. Then the wild dogs appeared. African wild dogs hunted in packs with sophisticated coordination. They'd been tracking the alien invaders since the first ship landed, treating them as interesting new prey. 23 dogs emerged from the darkness, surrounding the landing site in a coordinated pattern refined over millions of years of evolution. The hierarchy soldiers opened fire with stun weapons. The pack scattered and regrouped instantly. They attacked from multiple angles, testing the soldiers' defenses. When one angle proved weak, the entire pack exploited it. They fought like soldiers themselves, using tactics and communication that shocked the Vosk warriors. Team 3 tried to retreat to the ships. The wild dogs harried them every step, nipping at armor, forcing mistakes. One soldier fell. The pack was on him in seconds. His armor saved him from the initial rush, but the dogs were relentless. "Get to the ships," Trell screamed over the communicator. The surviving soldiers fought their way aboard, abandoning equipment and captured specimens. The wild dogs didn't pursue onto the ramps but maintained their perimeter, ensuring the invaders left. Commander Trell collapsed into his command chair, breathing heavily. His 3 ships had landed with 30 soldiers. 21 remained. 9 casualties from creatures the galaxy considered non-threatening. "Sir," Penn said quietly, "we're receiving a distress beacon from the backup team. They sought shelter in a cave system approximately 2 kilometers south." "What's their situation?" "Unknown. Their last transmission mentioned finding a secure location. That was 40 minutes ago." Trell considered leaving them behind, but the hierarchy didn't abandon assets. "Send a recovery team. Full combat loadout." The recovery team found the cave easily. They discovered the backup team huddled in a corner, whimpering. Dead snakes littered the cave floor. Not large snakes. Relatively small ones, black with coffin-shaped heads. "Black mambas," one soldier whispered, reading data from his scanner. "Highly venomous. Aggressive when threatened. We disturbed their nest. 2 soldiers had been bitten. The venom was already shutting down their nervous systems despite immediate medical treatment. Earth's snake venom was proving resistant to standard antitoxins. "Evacuate everyone," the recovery team leader ordered. "Leave the dead snakes. Leave everything. We're gone." The 3 hierarchy ships lifted off from Earth before dawn. Commander Trell sat in silence, reviewing casualty reports and mission logs. They'd come to Earth expecting easy prey and found a world that fought back at every level. As they reached orbit, another alarm sounded. An Earth defense satellite had detected their presence. Human military forces were scrambling fighters. The hierarchy ships activated their faster-than-light drives and fled before the humans could investigate. High Chancellor Vorin received the report 3 days later. A hierarchy operation on Earth had failed catastrophically. The message included mission logs, casualty reports, and desperate warnings about Earth's biosphere. "This is disturbing," Vorin told the Council. "The hierarchy attempted to weaponize Earth creatures." "They failed," Scar noted with satisfaction. "Earth defended itself. We must inform the humans," the jellyfish being pulsed. "They have a right to know their world was violated." James was summoned to an emergency council session. He arrived with Brutus, who'd become a regular fixture in the chamber. The honey badger had his own small platform near the podium now, complete with comfortable bedding and a steady supply of snacks. "James Reed," Vorin began, "we have difficult news. The hierarchy, a militant faction outside council authority, attempted to capture specimens from Earth. The operation failed with significant casualties." James felt his blood run cold. "They landed on Earth?" "When? Where?" "6 days ago. Kruger National Park. Your wildlife killed or injured 9 soldiers before they retreated." "Kruger?" James thought about the location. "What did they encounter?" Vorin played the mission logs. James watched footage of hippos attacking Team 1, elephants destroying Team 2, wild dogs coordinating against Team 3, the black mambas in the cave. "They thought they could just take animals?" James said in disbelief. "Without understanding the ecosystem? Without any preparation? They believed Earth creatures would be easily controlled," Scar said. "They learned otherwise." "The hippos alone." James shook his head. "Those are some of the most dangerous animals in Africa. And they tried to capture elephants? Elephants are intelligent. They communicate. They remember. You can't just attack an elephant herd without consequences. The Council must respond to this violation," Vorin declared. "The hierarchy will be sanctioned. They are forbidden from approaching Earth or any human settlement." "What if they try again?" James asked. "Then they will face the full military response of Council forces," Scar promised. "And I suspect Earth itself will provide adequate defense." James looked at the mission logs again. The wild dogs had fought with tactical precision. The elephants had destroyed advanced technology. Even the snakes had proven deadly. Earth didn't need much defending. It defended itself. "There's something you should know," James said slowly. "The areas they hit, Kruger and surrounding regions, those are actually protected zones. We've made them safe for tourists. The animals there are used to humans and vehicles. They're actually less aggressive than wild populations." The council chamber went silent. "You're saying," Vorin began carefully, "that these creatures were the calm ones?" "Relatively speaking. Wild elephants in unprotected areas are more dangerous. Hippos in isolated rivers are more territorial. And the black mambas in remote regions are even more aggressive." "Merciful stars," the crystalline being chimed weakly. James pulled out his communicator and sent a message to Earth. He needed to coordinate with the government about the hierarchy incident. He needed to ensure better monitoring of unauthorized landings. And he needed to warn them that Earth's wildlife had just become a galactic concern. The council scheduled a joint rescue operation. Some hierarchy soldiers were still alive but injured and stranded. Despite their crimes, the council felt obligated to retrieve them. James volunteered to accompany the mission along with Brutus. "You would help rescue those who tried to exploit your world?" Vorin asked. "They're hurt and scared," James replied. "Besides, someone needs to make sure the rescue team doesn't make the same mistakes." The rescue ships departed for Earth the following day, carrying council peacekeepers, medical personnel, and one human with a very determined honey badger. The rescue ships entered Earth's atmosphere with extreme caution. Council peacekeepers, veterans of countless operations across the galaxy, gripped their weapons nervously as the African savanna came into view below. They'd all reviewed the hierarchy mission logs. They knew what waited on the surface. James sat in the passenger section with Brutus in his lap. The honey badger seemed content, unbothered by the ship's descent. Around them, Kryn soldiers checked their armor repeatedly. A Draken warrior named Court sharpened his claws with ritualistic precision. Even Captain Rill, head of council security, looked tense. "We'll land near the last known position of the stranded soldiers," Rill announced. "Extract them quickly and depart. No engagement with local wildlife unless absolutely necessary." "They're not enemy combatants," James reminded everyone. "The animals are just living their lives." "We're the intruders." "Noted," Rill said, though his expression suggested he viewed anything that could kill 9 trained soldiers as a combatant. The ships landed in a clearing several kilometers from Kruger National Park. Sensors immediately detected multiple large heat signatures in the surrounding area. The peacekeepers deployed in tight formation, weapons ready. Brutus hopped down from James's arms and started sniffing around the landing site. Several soldiers tensed, remembering what the small Earth creature had done on the council station. "He's fine," James said. "Just exploring." The rescue team moved toward the stranded hierarchy soldiers' location. James walked in the middle of the formation, scanning the landscape with practiced eyes. He spotted elephant tracks, giraffe droppings, and evidence of a lion pride passing through recently. "We have movement," a scout reported. "Large quadruped, approximately 15 meters ahead." The peacekeepers formed a defensive circle. Through the tall grass emerged a giraffe, its long neck swaying as it walked. The animal paused to stare at the aliens with mild curiosity, then continued grazing on acacia leaves. "Stand down," James said. "That's a giraffe, herbivore, completely harmless unless you spook it." "It's massive," Court observed. "They can be 18 feet tall. Beautiful animals." The giraffe wandered away. The peacekeepers relaxed slightly and continued moving. Every sound made them jump. Birds calling overhead, insects buzzing in the grass, the distant roar of a lion claiming territory. They found the first stranded soldier near the river. The Vosk huddled behind a fallen tree, his armor dented and torn. His eyes widened when he saw the rescue team. "About time," he croaked.
"Get me out of here."
"Those things in the water, they're still watching." James looked at the river. Several hippo heads floated just above the surface, eyes tracking the newcomers. "Yeah, hippos are territorial. We need to move away from the water slowly. No sudden movements." The rescue team backed away carefully, supporting the injured soldier. The hippos watched but didn't pursue. Once the team reached safe distance, James exhaled. "That was terrifying," Captain Rill admitted. "That was them being calm," James replied. "If they'd wanted us gone, they would have charged." They found 3 more soldiers scattered across the area. Each one told similar stories of being chased, attacked, or cornered by animals they'd thought would be easy prey. One soldier had been trapped in a tree for 2 days while a leopard waited below. Another had been charged by a rhino and barely escaped. The final 2 soldiers were still in the cave with the black mambas. The rescue team approached cautiously, scanners detecting multiple snake heat signatures inside. "We need a snake expert," Rill said, looking at James. "I'm not a snake expert. I know enough not to mess with black mambas." "Then how do we retrieve the soldiers?" James thought for a moment. "Brutus, come here." The honey badger waddled over, still chewing on something he'd found. James pointed at the cave entrance. "Snakes, can you clear them out?" Brutus sniffed the air, caught the scent, and trotted into the cave without hesitation. The peacekeepers watched in amazement as the small animal disappeared into darkness. Hissing sounds echoed from inside, then silence. Then Brutus emerged, looking satisfied. He'd apparently convinced the snakes to relocate. "Clear," James announced. The rescue team entered the cave and found the 2 soldiers huddled in a corner, delirious with fear and snake venom. Medics stabilized them and carried them out on stretchers. As the team prepared to return to the landing site, a human vehicle appeared on the dirt road nearby. An old truck, painted in Park Service colors, pulled up and stopped. A woman in her 60s stepped out wearing khaki clothes and a wide-brimmed hat. She carried a radio and a rifle. The peacekeepers immediately aimed weapons at her. The woman didn't flinch. "Easy there," she said calmly in English. James's translator converted it for the others. "I'm Ruth, Park Ranger. I've been tracking your group for 3 days. 3 days? Captain Rill lowered his weapon slowly. "How? You're not exactly stealthy. Big metal ships trampling through the bush, scaring the wildlife. I followed your trail." Ruth looked at the rescued soldiers. "These the folks who tried to capture my elephants?" "Yes," James said, stepping forward. "I'm James Reed, human diplomat. These soldiers violated Earth without permission. We're here to retrieve them and ensure it doesn't happen again." Ruth studied James for a moment. "You're the one with the honey badger on the space station. Saw the news feeds. Quite the stir you caused." "That would be me. Where's the little troublemaker?" James pointed to Brutus, who was digging near a termite mound. Ruth smiled. "Good choice for an emotional support animal. Tough little creatures." She looked at the aliens surrounding her, showing no fear. "You all look nervous." "First time in Africa?" "First time on Earth," Court admitted. "Well, you picked a beautiful spot. Kruger is one of our best parks. Lots of diversity. Elephants, lions, leopards, buffalo, rhinos. We call them the Big Five. They're all dangerous," Rill said. "They can be, but mostly they just want to live their lives. You respect them, they respect you." Ruth pulled a thermos from her truck. "Anyone want tea?" "You look like you could use something calming." The absurdity of the situation struck James. Here was a human park ranger, alone and unarmed except for a rifle, offering tea to heavily armed alien soldiers who'd just been terrorized by Earth's wildlife. "Tea would be wonderful," he said. Ruth poured cups for everyone. The aliens accepted hesitantly, sniffing the strange Earth beverage. She pulled out her phone and showed them pictures. "These are my grandchildren," she said proudly. "This one's Simon, he's 7. That's Anna, she's 5. They visit every summer. Love the animals." The photos showed young humans playing near elephants, watching lions from vehicles, feeding giraffes at a sanctuary. "Your young ones are near these creatures?" the crystalline being asked in horror. "Safe distances supervised. But yes. How else will they learn to love nature? My grandkids have grown up around wildlife. They know the rules. Stay in the vehicle. Don't approach predators. Respect the animal's space. You raise your children among apex predators," Court said slowly, his worldview clearly shifting. "We raise them to understand nature. Fear isn't the answer. Knowledge is." Ruth drove the rescue team back to their ships, chatting casually about park management, conservation efforts, and tourism. She seemed completely comfortable with the armed aliens and the fact that they'd traveled from space. "You're remarkably calm," Captain Rill observed. "Why wouldn't I be? You're not here to hurt anyone. You're rescuing people. That's decent of you considering they attacked our elephants. You're not angry about the violation?" "Oh, I'm angry. But these soldiers learned their lesson. Earth taught them better than I could." Ruth parked near the ships and helped the medics load the injured soldiers. "Make sure your council knows we protect our wildlife. Anyone who tries to harm or capture animals without permission will face consequences." "Noted," James said. Ruth shook hands with everyone. her grip firm and confident. She gave Brutus a scratch behind the ears, which the honey badger tolerated. Then she climbed back in her truck and drove away, radio crackling with reports of elephant movements in the southern sector. The peacekeepers watched her go in silence. That woman, Court said finally, tracked us for 3 days through territory that nearly killed trained soldiers. She approached us alone. She offered us tea. She showed us pictures of her grandchildren. Humans are remarkable, Captain Rill agreed. The ships lifted off from Earth carrying rescued soldiers and a new understanding. During the journey back to the council station, the peacekeepers discussed what they'd witnessed. Ruth's calm competence, James's knowledge of animals. The way both humans navigated a dangerous world like it was completely natural. When they arrived at the station, High Chancellor Vorin called an emergency council session. The rescued hierarchy soldiers were taken into custody. The rescue team presented their report. The humans coexist with creatures that nearly destroyed a military operation, Captain Rill testified. They raise their children in proximity to these animals. They've developed knowledge and respect that allows them to thrive in an environment that would devastate most species. We met a human park ranger, Court added. She tracked our movements for days, approached us without fear, offered hospitality. She embodied everything we've learned about humanity. They are dangerous not because they fight but because they adapt. The council chamber buzzed with discussion. Vorin called for order. The question before us is clear. Do we accept humanity into the council, knowing they come from a world unlike any other we've encountered? Scar stood. I vote yes. The honey badger taught me what fearlessness looks like. The human James taught me what wisdom looks like. Earth has shown us that danger and beauty can coexist. Humanity deserves a seat at this table. One by one, other species voiced their support. The crystalline being, the jellyfish representative. Even species that had initially called for Earth's quarantine now recognized humanity's unique perspective. Very well, Vorin declared. The Galactic Council formally accepts humanity as a member species. James Reed will serve as Earth's ambassador. The hierarchy is hereby sanctioned and forbidden from approaching Earth or any human settlement. The Council pledges to protect Earth's sovereignty and respect its unique biosphere. The chamber erupted in approving sounds. James stood at the podium with Brutus beside him, feeling the weight of representing his entire species. Thank you, High Chancellor. Earth is honored to join the Council. We'll do our best to contribute wisdom, knowledge, and perspective. We come in peace and friendship. One condition, Vorin added. Your honey badger must remain here as a permanent resident. He has become something of a symbol. Also, our security teams have grown fond of him. James looked at Brutus. The honey badger had curled up on his platform and was already asleep. I think he'd like that. He seems comfortable here. Comfortable, Captain Rill muttered. That's one word for it. The council session ended with celebration. Messages of support poured in from across the galaxy. Earth's admission was historic. For the first time, the council had accepted a species from a high-gravity, high-diversity death world. Ruth's photos went viral across galactic networks. The image of human children playing safely near elephants became a symbol of humanity's unique relationship with nature. Scientists requested permission to study Earth's ecosystem. Educators wanted to learn about human conservation methods. Military strategists wanted to understand how humans manage danger so effectively. James established his office on the station, with Brutus's habitat taking up most of the space. The honey badger adjusted well to his new life. He had regular meals, interesting places to explore, and a growing number of aliens who'd learned to respect his boundaries. One afternoon, James found High Chancellor Vorin standing near Brutus's habitat, watching the honey badger sleep. The ancient insectoid held a small piece of fruit in one of his 4 hands. He's remarkable, Vorin said quietly. I've observed countless species across my lifetime. None have taught me humility quite like this small creature. He's just being himself, James replied. Exactly. That's what makes him remarkable. He doesn't pretend to be anything other than what he is, a honey badger. Stubborn, fearless, authentic. Vorin carefully placed the fruit near the habitat's entrance, keeping a safe 3 meters back. Your species shares that quality. You don't hide what you are. You're honest about your strengths and limitations. We learned that lesson the hard way. Humans spent a long time thinking we were separate from nature. Above it somehow. We're not. We're part of it. Understanding that changed everything. Brutus woke up, noticed the fruit, and waddled over to investigate. He grabbed it and returned to his sleeping spot without acknowledging Vorin's presence. The council has faced down empires, Vorin said. We've survived wars that lasted centuries. We've brokered peace between ancient enemies. But it took one human and his honey badger to teach us something new. What's that? That strength isn't just about power or technology. True strength is knowing your place in the universe and being comfortable with it. Your species lives on a dangerous world, surrounded by creatures that could kill you, and you've learned not to conquer them but to coexist with them. That's wisdom we need. James felt the weight of those words. We'll do our best to share it. See that you do. The galaxy is watching Earth now. Not with fear, but with respect and curiosity. Don't disappoint us. Vorin left the office, his footsteps clicking on the metal floor. James sat down at his desk and pulled up his messages. Requests for Earth's input on environmental policies. Invitations to speak at galactic universities. Questions about conservation and coexistence. Humanity had joined the galactic community not because they were the strongest or most advanced, but because they understood something fundamental that others had forgotten. Life was precious. Diversity was valuable. Coexistence was possible. Brutus finished his fruit and went back to sleep, completely unconcerned with galactic politics or the role he'd played in changing the course of history. He was just a honey badger doing honey badger things, and somehow that was exactly what the galaxy needed to see. The council had faced down empires, survived wars across millennia, and brokered peace between ancient enemies. But it took one human and his honey badger to teach them humility, to show them that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy wasn't necessarily the one with the biggest teeth or the strongest armor. Sometimes it was the one who simply refused to back down, who lived authentically, and who reminded everyone else what it meant to be truly alive. Earth's flag now hung in the council chamber alongside 47 others. Brutus slept peacefully on his platform nearby, and James Reed, ordinary human diplomat, began the work of representing a species that had survived and thrived on one of the galaxy's most remarkable worlds. The galaxy would never be quite the same.